Oh my gosh. That was disgraceful, truly. I'm trying, and then she just gave up, couldn't formulate a proper question to ask her client. Truly an embarrassment. In my eyes, this tipped the scales in favor of the Depp side, and that was on redirect examination when the Heard side had control. Let me bring in my guest now, see what he thought of that moment. Criminal defense attorney John Mobley is our guest on the show today, joining us from Colombia, South Carolina, where he practices. John, always a pleasure to have you. I know you always tell it like it is. What did you think when you saw that moment?
Well, Julie, like you said, I got to call it like I see it. I think what we see as attorneys are often different from what jurors see and perceive. I think we see all of the technical issues and the mistakes that lawyers make. I'm more of a big picture kind of guy when it comes to how significant something is in the context of an entire trial. I think we as attorneys can criticize, rightfully so, the lack of the skill set deficit on a very straightforward issue. But I think in the context of the entire case, what the jury sees, what they perceive, what sticks out as far as being memorable and a factor in the decision making, I don't see them seeing it being that big of a deal.
Okay. Now, I think this is important, too, because something that I've been talking about it, here and there, and other media outlets who've interviewed me about this case have asked, and I always say, you can kind of think of it like a boxing match. There are numerous rounds, right? And so within this case, this was a round that the Depp team clearly won. Amer Heard's examination. I mean, that was a devastating cross, followed by a redirect that went over like a lead balloon because of counsel's fault, not because of Amer Heard's fault. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, you make a great point, John Mobley, because this is about a long trial with lots of other evidence. And for the Heard side, if the jury believes only one incident of domestic violence occurred, that's enough to make Johnny Depp's case fail. Talk to me about that, please. The fact that he's alleging she defamed him in that article, saying she was a victim of domestic violence. She doesn't have to prove 14 incidents here. The jury just has to believe that even only once he hit her.
Well, I see it somewhat differently. I've said from the beginning that clearly this was a very chaotic, tumultuous, mercurial relationship, however you want to describe it, where both sides, both Depp and Heard, were just extremely verbally, emotionally, and probably mutually physically abusive toward each other to some extent. But I believe that the issue in this case is that Heard is trying to, or in her article rather, her op-ed, portrayed herself as a victim of domestic abuse. And I believe that the jury's going to believe that, being voluntarily involved in a crazy, chaotic relationship where the norm is for the people in the relationship to treat each other like crap and to yell and scream and push and shove each other and scratch each other, that's their norm. That's different than being a victim of abuse and a victim of an abusive relationship. And I think that's where the testimony is going in this case. There's no doubt that there was physical and verbal and emotional abuse going back and forth. But I don't believe that anyone is going to perceive Amer Heard at the end of this trial as a victim of domestic abuse.